good? So today I'm going to talk about ADHD symptoms overall, what are the common symptoms, how those of us that have ADHD feel based off of these symptoms. And it is important that if you resonate with some of these or possibly all of these symptoms, to seek official diagnosis by a medical professional. Okay, let's get started. The first one is going to be emotional regulation. So those of us that have ADHD, we struggle with this because it's very difficult for us to start tasks, and we tend to leave things very last minute. So once we have a task due, it's more than likely that we already have 10 tasks due for that day. And because of that, we tend to look down on ourselves, we tend to get anxiety, and we tend to get depressed. Or because we're aware of the lack of initiative that we're having to complete these tasks, leads us to feel very disappointed in ourselves. So another thing is, for example, if we already had difficulty starting a task and then we accidentally make a mistake on it, we take that very negatively towards ourselves, which causes us to have even more disappointment in ourselves, which completely throws off our mood, our energy, and overall, it could cause us, unfortunately, to isolate ourselves from our loved ones. Not necessarily lash out, but isolate ourselves because we're so disappointed within ourselves. So that's kind of the emotional dysregulation for ADHD. It differs from autism because autism, it's a difficulty on how you communicate things to the world. So while we tend to isolate ourselves, or for example, we lack that initiative to start a task. For those on the spectrum, it's very difficult for them to express the things that they want to do, or even if it's something as simple as drinking water. That person, unfortunately, might not be able to communicate those things as easily as a neurotypical would, or even in our case, someone with ADHD. So the emotional dysregulation presents in both autism and ADHD, but for different reasons because of what I mentioned. So that is one. Another thing would be trouble focusing on activities. And it doesn't necessarily mean activities that we find boring, but it could be activities that we want to do as well. For example, this week maybe I'm chasing dopamine. I say, oh, I'm gonna go learn how to play pickleball. I buy the stuff, it arrives next week, and by next week I already am interested in another hobby. And even though I spent money and time into learning about pickleball, I already am interested in another hobby. Therefore, I'm not going to put in as much time and effort into learning this hobby. Unfortunately, again, that doesn't just apply for things that we don't find interesting, although that is a big key. Me, for example, when I was learning in high school, I loved anatomy, I loved biology, I loved chemistry, but if you put me in social studies or in history class, I could not focus. I could reread the page 10 times and still did not understand what was being said. I don't know if you guys seen the movie Dude, Where's My Car? But there's a quote where he says, I was going to say brown. Like that is how we feel. We could read the page 10 times, and if it's something that we are not interested in, we are going to have such difficulty understanding what that page is saying. So that is another thing. Another symptom would be stimming. So yes, a lot of us sing songs. A lot of us, will repeat maybe some quotes or something, but we do it on a whole other level. So when we are under stress, when we are under society pressure, when we feel anxious, if we feel overwhelmed by everyone around us, or overall the conversations, like we need to regulate our nervous system, we need to regulate our parasympathetic system by stimming. So we will either do movements, we'll either, grab that's a movement too. So we'll either do movements, or we'll sing a song, or we'll repeat a phrase or a word that captured our attention. Me, for example, it's definitely Adam Sandler quote movies and overall Disney songs. So for example, if I'm doing chores that I don't find interesting, of course, I have to start stimming so that way I could get the energy to complete those tasks. If I am in a social setting where I feel anxious and I feel nervous around those around me, my go to is doing this and overall grabbing my legs, because that allows my parasympathetic system to again regulate overall my nerves and anxiety. And that's something that also people, those on the spectrum, also present. But again, it's just overall it's different manners. For example, those on the spectrum, it could be because they're trying to express that I'm hungry, and they can't communicate that as easily as to us. For example, it's usually because we're trying to achieve that energy to complete a task, or because of the overall sensory overload by those around us, which also again could apply for those on the spectrum. For is if the sensory overload or also specific clothing can be very triggering for those on the spectrum as well. So, okay, another one would be interrupting others when speaking, which unfortunately is, it's something I'm definitely working on. It's something I know all of us neurodivergents are not proud of, but the reason why we do this is because we want to let you know that we connect with you, that we're listening to you, that we're there for you, and that we understand what you're going through. And most likely, we will forget after you're done telling us what we were going to say. And so sometimes it may seem like, oh, they're just trying to copy my story. It's no, we're just so excited and we want you to feel validated. So we want to share our experience with you, but our trace of thought disappears so quickly. So we do not want to forget what we thought of, and we want to connect with you. So I know it could be frustrating to have your neurodivergent friend interrupt you, but I promise you it comes from a good place. We just want to connect with you. So that is another one. Frequently losing items. So I have a saying that if my phone is not in my hand, then I already lost it, which is true. I can't tell you guys how many times I've had to use the Find My iPhone app on my laptop, because we tend to lose items very easily because we're usually running low on time, because we have trouble with organization. We're trying to complete tasks. So we tend to lose our items very easily because we're trying to do so many things at once to be productive. So that is another symptom. Another one would be issues with organization and time management, as I said. So organization, because again, we'll maybe put off 10 tasks that we had all week to do, but then we leave it till the last day to when we have to complete these tasks. And because of that, then we're overwhelmed and we don't know which task we should focus on first. We're like, should I focus on this one? Should I focus on that? So we have issues organizing and prioritizing our tasks because, again, we tend to leave them last minute. And time management, the same, overall, the same thing. For example, if I have an appointment today at 3 p.m., I will be overwhelmed and I will probably not do anything until that 3 p.m. appointment, because I want to make sure I don't get there late, and because I don't want to get distracted by starting all these other tasks to the point where I'll forget that appointment and I'll miss that appointment that I booked a month ago, perhaps. So those are other symptoms. Another one would be not emotional regulation, but emotional sensitivity. So emotional sensitivity is that we are very intuitive when it comes to reading those around us, and overall sensitive to rejection. We're very intuitive because we tend to read body language, we tend to read the mannerisms, all the things, the voice, the tone. We tend to read every person in the room very well, because since we tend to be called weird or, like a bit awkward, we want to make sure that we mask appropriately to adapt to each person, so that way they feel comfortable talking to us. So us neurodivergents, yes, neurotypicals mask as well, but we mask on a whole other level. We are studying every single person, how they speak, how they grab things, all these little things. So we're very intuitive when it comes to emotions, because we want to make sure we adapt and approach the person in a way that they feel comfortable, because we're people pleasers. And then we're sensitive to rejection because we put in a lot of effort when it comes to our loved ones and friends. Like, we want to make sure they're fully happy. We want to make sure we learn what they like, what they don't like. And like, we fully on study our friends and our loved ones to make sure that they are happy, because again, we're people pleasers. So when we face rejection, we take it very, very deeply. It affects us deeply because we put in so much effort to please those around us, because we tend to feel left out or weird compared to neurotypicals. So overall, there are more signs and symptoms. And again, although ADHD is not curable, it is highly treatable. There are, me personally, what has worked amazing is medication. It definitely has helped regulate my emotions. It helps me prioritize my tasks, and overall too, talking to a life coach. I love my life coach. It has been life changing, and it's to the point where now I'm studying to be a life coach. So there are ways, again, not to cure it, but to manage it. So it's okay. This is my favorite go-to saying: your vibe attracts your tribe. So it's okay to be different. It's okay to be weird. I don't mind being weird. I love the intuitive empathy that we have. And although unfortunately it could push people away, because we're trying to provide comfort to those around us, but I wouldn't change that for anything, because I feel by being myself and being open about my mental health, it's allowed me to connect with the right friends who are also neurodivergent. So your vibe attracts your tribe, and it's okay. Again, everyone masks, but by masking, it's not going to allow you to truly be happy and to truly be yourself. So if you guys need support strategies on how overall to overcome these struggles, please let me know. I'm studying to be a life coach, and I would love to support you guys in any way I can. And again, if you need an official diagnosis, please consult a medical professional for an official diagnosis. So let me know if you guys have any questions, any comments overall. I love to read your comments and questions. I'm here to support in any way I can. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe. That really helps me a lot. Love y'all. Bye.